Hey guys, Chainer here again. Welcome back to Diablo 3 Basics Episode 2, where we talk about one aspect of Diablo 3 that's important for a level 70 player to know. Again, if you're looking for a level 1 to 70 and gearing guide, I'll leave an annotation right here. Alright, so today we're going to talk about Paragon points. Okay, so on my stream, a lot of people ask about Paragon points in general, like how should I build my Paragon points? Is there a Paragon point spec? Paragon points, there's no general route for Paragon points. Paragon points are there to tailor to your character. Maybe you're missing a little bit of movement speed, so you need to get that. You know, your build might need this or it might not need that, and depending on how high of a Paragon level you are, that's gonna kind of determine where you put your points. Alright, we'll start off with the core tab. So the first Paragon point tab is the core tab. And what do we do here? So the first and the most important thing is movement speed. Now right here, as you can see, I have 13 movement speed. So the base movement speed you could have for your character is 25. That's all you get with stats. You could get it higher through abilities like sprint on a barbarian or other movement speed abilities on other classes. So the most important thing to start off with is you want to get your movement speed to 25%. Moving faster is great. It's just about one of the most efficient stats you could get, because the faster you move through the game, the more you're gonna clear. Alright, so what we gotta do here is say I have 12 movement speed on my boots, but that's about it. I don't have any other movement speed here. So as you can see here in my tab, my movement speed is 25, and that is because I put the other 13 points into movement speed. Now, after that, some builds require a little bit of extra resource. My certain build, I don't need Fury. It's not a big deal to me, so I just completely skip my resource. But if your build is very resource heavy and you would like more maximum resource, it can be a good choice to go to after your movement speed. And then after that, you're basically just going to put right into main stat. If you need some vitality, you're missing some on gear, that's also an option. So I really recommend main stat, but you could put into vitality or a little bit of both. And that's about it for the core tab. Moving on to the offense tab. Alright, so now this is where it really gets spec heavy, build heavy, depending on your class and the build you're running. For some classes, you might need to hit a certain, or some builds, you might need to hit a certain amount of attack speed. For my build, attack speed is not very good at all, so this is the last stat I'm putting into, and it really doesn't make much of a difference as I'm putting into it. But the cooldown reduction, the crit chance, and the crit damage. Now, usually most builds would go for that cooldown reduction first, because cooldown reduction is great. So if your build needs a certain amount of cooldown reduction, or if cooldown reduction is just generally good, I'd say go for that first. And now next up is crit chance and crit damage. Now the one you put into first depends on how much crit chance and how much crit damage your character has. Crit chance and crit damage buff each other. So if you wound up getting 600% critical hit damage, yet you only had 2% crit chance, neither... like the crit, all that crit damage you have is pretty worthless. But if you had 30% crit chance and 300 crit damage, it'd be really, really good. So that's the idea. They kind of work off of each other, and you want to keep them as even as possible. So whichever one of the two is lower on your stat sheet, see, I have 46 crit chance and I have 411 crit damage. Now, if I didn't already have my Paragon's points spent, and I had 0 into crit chance and 0 into crit damage, I would max out my crit damage first. Get my crit damage up to 460 while I have 46 crit chance. And that's pretty much how that works. And that is the offense tab. Now, the defense tab. The defense tab is pretty linear. The first stat you're going to want to max out is resist all. Resist all, the way it goes. And then the next one is going to be armor and then life. Armor and life are pretty close. I'd say armor might be a little better. I guess that could vary a bit, but generally, resist all, armor, life to life regen. You can switch it up if you want and go resist all, life, armor. That's all mathematics, but usually the armor is going to be a little better. Alright, so moving on to utility. Alright, so utility. Area damage. Area damage is actually a good stat. What it does is area damage always has a 20% chance on hit to proc. And if it procs, you deal your area damage worth of the damage you already dealt in a small radius. So it's good, but it's not worth a main stat on your items. So you never really get area damage on your items, but in utility, it's great. Life on hit is pretty good as well. So life on hit can proc once per ability. So if you use a Furious Charge which hits 10 mobs, I'm gonna get my life on hit to proc once. That's why it's not such a great stat and it's not really used on gear. But getting that life on hit in your utility is pretty good. It's pretty good. As well as resource cost reduction, which this one's a little tricky. The reason why I don't have it statted right now is for a previous build. Okay, so in my Greater Rifting build, I use something called Life per Fury. So the more Fury I spend on Battle Rage Bloodshed, costs 20 Fury, I have like 5.3k, 5,300 life for every point of Fury that I spend. So if I reduce that 20 Fury on the Battle Rage down to say 17, then I'm just reducing my healing, because I'm not really spending Fury anywhere else in this particular build. So resource cost reduction could actually hurt you in some cases. In my T6 build, that's not the case. I'm not using Life for Fury, so I could actually go ahead and do this. Alright, let's pull that back up. So yes, area damage, resource cost reduction are both pretty good. Now, if your build is very resource heavy, resource cost reduction is probably going to be the best. Area damage might be next. Life on hit, depending on how much you need it, it's usually not all that good, so I would save it till later. It's really going to be down to, do you want the area damage, or could you make use of the resource cost reduction? If it's not helping you out that much, get the area damage first, then go the resource. But, you know, resource cost reduction is pretty good. It's pretty good. And then, of course, gold fine last, because you don't really need it. Gold is really easy to acquire, especially once you get a Goblin Vault and you get one of the Boon of the Hoarder gems. You're going to be rolling in the monies. Alright, guys, so that's about it for today. I hope you liked the video. Hope you found it helpful. If you want, like, subscribe, share, leave a comment below, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Later.